right, so I am the writer here. I'm playing the role of the writer. Genoa is playing the role of the reviewer. So this is a piece that I wrote, and so now I'm going to start out by telling Genoa a little bit about the rhetorical context of the piece, right?
Yes,
Awesome.
Go for it.
Okay, so I've written this thing called a playlist, which is basically a curation of resources, and it's meant for National Writing Project teachers. So people at universities, typically they'll have PhDs who are running writing project sites all across the nation. So there are maybe 200 or more writing project sites at different universities. There's one here in Rhode Island at Rhode Island College. And so a new site director, someone who starts directing the site, needs to sort of know how to help teachers in the area collaborate. So the purpose of this piece is to help new site directors understand what collaboration looks like, what are some things that they can do in their local site to promote collaboration, and then link them to particular resources that we already have on our website that detail some of the collaborations that teachers have already done. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any questions about audience or purpose?
No, I don't think so. Not at this moment, as we talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the way I see it, is I want writing project directors to know that collaboration is central to what we do with Writing Project, and I want them to understand that these resources are there to help them do particular collaborative kinds of work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the context of this piece, it's going to be published on the Write, Learn, Lead website. And so the social practices that I talk about are already sort of detailed. There'll be a graphic about these social practices. Collaboration is one of the practices. So they'll kind of get the big idea or the big frame. And then this is specifically meant to focus down on how to promote collaboration. So it's part of a bigger resource that's going to be published on the website. So let's see, genre. So it's going to be let's start with media. As I said, it's going to be part of a web resource. There'll be some graphics to go along with it. I haven't developed those yet. And it's going to be mainly text-based. There are a few resources that are like podcasts or videos, so that's nice. It mixes up the media a little bit inside the resources. Mm-hmm. So the mode here is mainly just text on a web page with some graphics and with some multimedia stuff. And then the genre is what I call a playlist. So a playlist, I mean, if you think about like creating a playlist, it might be like your workout playlist or your chill playlist or whatever. So a playlist is meant to set a certain kind of mood, things that kind of go together. You curate particular songs into a playlist. So it's that same kind of idea with this genre. So I've curated particular resources that help people do a certain thing. So arrangement. All right, so this is where I have some questions. Like right now, I went through all the different resources on the NWP website, and I've sort of tried to put them in some categories, and I don't know if the categories are right or if I could collapse categories. There's also the possibility that if there's only one resource in a category, that I can ask the web team to pull more resources around this thing. So it's kind of a back and forth. I'm pulling their resources, but I can also suggest that they add other resources if I don't think there are enough around a particular category. So the experiences are the things that I want the teachers to do, right? So design collaborations with families, and then how can you learn about that? So then there's a web link here that tells you more about family writing projects, right? So the categories are a big question. So now we're getting into what do I want you to address? So do the categories work? So address that for me, please. And then I want you to think about, is the language appropriate? So I know as a writer, my sentences tend to go on and on and on. I mean, like right here, look at this one. This sentence is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines? Like that's a bit much, and I know that, and I know this is something that I regularly do. So if you could maybe suggest where I could cut things or how I might cut some sentences or parse sentences to make them shorter, more declarative, less rambly kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like you to address sort of tone. Am I appealing? Is this appealing? Like, would you be interested in collaborating? So address the tone, address like the sentence structure and how that may be like not inviting because it's too long, too rambly. And then really particularly the categories. Are there any that you see that could collapse? Like, could we put 2 categories together? So I think those are my 3 big concerns, but I also want you to press me Like, what do you see that I'm not even thinking about that you're like, ooh, I don't know about that?
Okay. Okay, so, well, first of all, let me say, I think this is a wonderful project that this whole idea of the playlist is awesome. And to give resources like this to teachers and these site managers, I think is a huge benefit. So overall, let me just bless the project in that sense. Also, I think that there are some wonderful things about the town, like paragraph 2. I find almost everything in there really draws me in, makes me feel valued, makes me feel like I'm part of something important and different and worthwhile. So I really like that about it. And I like the idea of a playlist, you know, as a metaphor for the whole thing. And when I look at paragraph 1, the entry into it, I feel a little confused by it. So that in terms of audience, I feel like perhaps those first 2 sentences might be more compelling in a way. The first one actually, it's fine. The thing that confuses me is when it says to engage the other social practices of writing project work. You've said collaboration. What do you mean by other social practices there? So already I'm confused.
Okay.
And then that sentence being quite long makes me more confused. So I felt like that could be clarified a little bit there. And I love the tone of paragraph 2, as I mentioned, but paragraph 1, the one thing I found that troubled me a little bit is I love that you use the word rock stars because it's, you know, common parlance kind of thing. On the other hand, it made me wonder if it would in some ways exclude people who haven't given up the idea of being a rock star yet, and somehow still have, you know, GarageBand or whatever that app is on their computers. You know, but you know, the idea is that when this whole thing is about inclusivity, I want not to exclude anybody.
Okay, that's a good point.
Felt like it was an excluding language. We are different from other people. I think there's a way to emphasize that without saying it that way. So let
me ask you a specific question there.
Go ahead.
What if I got rid of the language, like not saying like as opposed to other teachers, but maybe just saying it more softly, like,
yeah,
okay.
I think
so
that
like while we are rock stars.
Yes, right, like exactly. Well, we're rock stars. We're in a band together. You know,
right? Okay.
Everyone put. But I would say, generally, my experience with web writing. This is me because I'm just, you know, having my professional experience with web writing is that we always try to keep paragraphs as short as possible and sentences as short as possible because of the way people use the web, which is, you know, they enter, they leave, they don't read it in a straight narrative way. Even in this case, we know these are tenure track PhD types who are more likely to do so. Still, I think our experiential relationship to online text is less linear. So I always try to have short paragraphs, and I also feel like there are ways to, you know, make the text more accessible. And this isn't to say here, but bullets or bolding or, you know, things that draw certain kinds of things out. And because I didn't entirely understand the playlist idea right away, these guys might, I have to say, this may be generational. Did you all understand right away the playlist idea? Yes, no, there's some head shaking. Okay, so we didn't all immediately understand the playlist idea. So I felt like that could be explained a little bit more. So that for people who don't, it's, you know, sort of metaphoric. So those are my suggestions along appealing in tone. In terms of the categories, I felt like I was a little lost because of the language around the categories, and I wasn't sure why they were in the particular order they were in. And I wanted more navigation, perhaps, a different way of indexing them. And I'm afraid I have a failure of imagination here, so I don't have suggestions, but I just wondered if there was a different way to order this, or when you add the descriptions, if that will help people better plug into them. But I wanted to be able to go directly to the thing I cared about somehow.
Gotcha.
Right.
So you're saying, like, in the description, maybe help
keywords.
Know what, keywords, or why they would go to do this thing. Okay.
Yeah. And some cross-indexing possibly in the main text. I don't know. You know, if you're interested in a flowchart, is kind of thing. If you want to go here, go. You know, here's the.
Yeah, I'll tell you my thinking behind that. I was trying to go from like low barrier, easy things to do to more difficult things. But maybe I haven't really said that, so you wouldn't know that. So that's probably
right. Okay. No, that's good.
So low barrier to more difficult, I guess.
And I wondered, I guess, in the order of the playlist things themselves, is there purpose to that order, to the way that the resources themselves are arranged?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
I mean, not just the categories, but within.
Oh, not just the categories, but within there, is there why would I put one resource before another?
Yes.
Oh, that's good too. I didn't think about like that level of organization.
Yeah. So that was just a question that I had.
I just want to stop for just a second and tell my class that Genoa had read this piece before, because we were trying to do it in a sort of short period of time to demo it, right? So we haven't practiced what she was going to say, but she had read it. So if you're wondering, like, when did she read this thing? Like, I did give her the piece to read the night before, just so we could do this in front of the class.
It's because I'm that good. I can read things out of the back of my head and with comment. No, I had read it, but we hadn't talked about feedback at all. So I guess the last thing that I would press on is language issues. Now that you've realized that it's PhDs, when I hear the word iterate, I immediately recoil. So maybe, but they may love that word. So I'll just point out that they're kind of that kind of.
Yeah, I will say in writing project networks, like iterative practice is talked about. That is a fuzzy word.
So you know that audience better than I do. So this is an important thing, by the way. When you're talking to a writer about their audience, they very well may know that audience better than the person reading it. And so, Stephanie knows these people really well, and I don't. So I'm just going to throw things that to my ear may sound funny, but it's her choice whether or not to do anything with it. Always remember that's your writing there, right?
Yep.
So, I guess those are my main suggestions.
Cool. So yeah, I think you've given me a lot of feedback to work with and things to think about that are all sort of around this big idea of audience and purpose and how accessible am I making this text to my audience. So thank you for that feedback, and also pointing out, specifics like the word iterate, is that effective for this audience? So I think that's really helpful. And I've here written comments all along the side of my draft so I can remember what you said.
Oh, great.
And begin to revise. So thank you so much for taking the time with the piece and for talking to me about it, and also for being willing to demonstrate it for our students.
Ditto. Thank you. It's a great honor to read it. It's a great project.
Thank you.
Right, thanks. Talk to you later.
Bye, Genoa's class.
Bye. Bye, Stephanie's class. Okay, now we can remember how to leave meetings. Okay,
I know. End it for